Hello my friends, Blackendrose here, and this is something a little bit different. This is something I used to do, and it is called Let's Discuss. It's not so much Let's Play as in I have a topic here. In fact, I have two topics, but I'll be splitting it into two parts. And I wanted to cover something quite seriously in a sense. And the first one, this topic is actually one that has come up for me especially recently. Well, not so much for me. Well, in a sense, for me as well as for the people that I've spoken to. Relationships. Now, I know what you're thinking. The moment I said relationships, suddenly it's a case of, oh God, that's a big subject. Why is this random person going on about it? Well, there's a good reason why I'm going on about it. A lot of people have spoken to me about relationship difficulties that they've been having. And I also noticed a few things when I've spoken to people. And this is one of the things that I wanted to sort of address and to sort of see if I can provide some useful tips and advice in a general sense. So what I'm going to do is I've actually written down some notes this time, which is very rare for me for doing recording. I don't tend to do any prep work on these things. But the first thing I want to say is that if you have any questions or comments regarding relationship advice, or if you want to ask me anything, do let me know either here or on Twitter. And we'll just go from there. Okay. So the first note I've got here is the basis. Now, this works on the idea of what is the basis of your relationship. Now, this is the most fundamental components of a relationship. What is it that keeps you together? What is the basis of your relationship? Because that's the key of where it all starts. So, some people are brought together for various reasons. But I've come to the conclusion that really the basis of a relationship should be, do you want to be together? Like, do you want to be with that person? And why is that? And that will feed into other factors a bit later. And that factor is basically, what is it that brought you together? What is it that keeps you together? What is it that separates you from just being friends? Because obviously, having a girlfriend or boyfriend, depending on your gender and sexual orientation, you can have friends, but when you become lovers, that's almost like a much greater extension. It's good to be friends with the people you're in love with. In fact, it's probably almost essential. But there's obviously more to it. So, your best friend is your best friend. Then there's your lover, who can also be your best friend in a sense. And I know there are some people who take the basis of, you should never date your friends, you should never date your co-workers. That's actually not true. In fact, a lot of romances start from people you've met in work, because romances develop with people that you engage with regularly, and you sort of start to develop likings to them, or dislikings as the case may be. It's a bit of a trial by fire, that. Right, so the next point I've got on here, and basis feeds into all of this, so meeting. So how do you meet people? How do you find a girlfriend or a boyfriend? How do you find like those people? Well, basically the best advice I have on that is, what is it you're seeking? What is it you're after? And go to places where you can find that. That's probably the best thing. So, if you're looking for someone who shares your interests, go to social groups. Go out to those places. I mean, in my case, I'm a gamer. So, if I were to meet fellow gamer girls, or gamer women, since I'm 29, the best thing for me to do would be to go to gaming events. Like, go to places like that. Places where people who would share similar interests would go. Because you can strike up conversations with people with similar interests. Which I have managed to do before. It's how I've made some of my closest friends. Don't fall into the obvious trap of, I'll go to a club, I'll go to a bar. You can go to those places, but you will most likely find specific kinds of people in those places. If that's not the kind of person you're looking for, then you're going to walk into a bad situation. Doesn't always work. It doesn't always happen that way. You can get lucky, and to be perfectly honest, that's where relationships come in, is meeting people. You get lucky in meeting people. But this is about giving you better chances of success and some advice. So, go to places where you're more liable to find people who share your interests, or if you're going to find particular kinds of people, go to those places. That's basically it. I mean, I can't give too many specifics because it's based entirely on individual preferences, but have a think about the kind of person that you want and go with that. Now, I'm a little bit out of touch on this one, but because I'm going out of sequence a little bit here, there's one thing I wanted to bring up that is very important, which is, it also ties back into basis. You can date attractive looking people, you can date people who look physically good or physically attractive, but don't base your entire relationship on whether they look good or not, because that will get you nowhere. It'll be fun at first. You will enjoy it, but physical attraction doesn't make for a stable relationship. You need to have an emotional bond as well. And I know it sounds really stupid to have to say that, because it sounds obvious, but believe me, people forget that, because they get bowled over by people who look very attractive. Happens to both genders. Guys who find really attractive women, and women who find really handsome or attractive men. And they get bowled over by how they look, or from what they see in pictures, and they try and make it work because they look awesome. And it's like, no, don't. That can be a good basis for meeting people, because if you're physically attracted to them, it's easier to get on with them, but don't make that the basis of your entire relationship, because it will fail, and I guarantee you it will. And I know that's a really harsh thing for me to say, and a really finite thing to say, a really definite thing to say, but it's true. How many times have I seen it happen? Constantly I see it happen, and it's really upsetting to see, because good looking people are not by definition assholes, but you tend to find that people will date someone and try and make it work because they're a hot guy or they're an attractive woman. But the thing is that that's a good starting point, but if they're actually an asshole, for the love of God, don't gloss over it. Like, just don't, because you're setting yourself up for a fail, and a really big one. Because the thing is, and don't. In fact, actually, no. I'm not going to go into the next point because that comes up a bit later. But the next point I've gotten here is called friction, and that is not physical friction. This is emotional friction. Many people have come to me before and said, I've had an argument with my boyfriend. And I say boyfriend because just about all of my friends are women. Not all of them, but the majority of them are. And they've come to me and said, I've had an argument with my boyfriend. And, like, oh my God, it's all over. And it's like, well, actually, arguments are healthy in relationships, but not constant arguments. Bear in mind, we're talking about two people here, and people will invariably have differing views on things, and sometimes people can be stubborn, and so they don't back down from their view. I've been very stubborn sometimes, and some people who know me will know how stubborn I can get, but I'm also very understanding as well. But the thing is that don't feel that because you've had an argument that things are not right between you. Arguments are healthy, but the purpose of an argument is to work out the differing points, to work things out. That should be the basis of an argument, is to resolve conflict. If you're not resolving conflict, then the argument is a problem. And that comes down to communication, which I've got a bit further down, but I'll get to that in a little bit. The thing is that there will be things that you don't like about your partner. It almost invariably happens. It's not common to find someone who is perfect for you. There will be things that you don't like, but that doesn't mean they're the wrong person. That said, if there are things that you don't like that you can't get past, then don't force it. If it's like say your partner was an alcoholic and you can't cope with that, and they aren't gonna. And if they're not gonna change that, you have to then make a decision yourself of if you want to live with that. I will get to another. In fact, I know I'm going to get to this point. Yeah, I'll get to this point now, which is about dealing with change and how people are. And that crops up in friction, because when you start dating someone, you don't necessarily know all of their foibles, all the aspects to them. That's what the courtship process is. You learn about them, you get to know them, and you learn more. You learn more. Some people will try and cover up the negative aspects about themselves, but invariably they'll come out, because if you're gonna, the whole point of a relationship is to basically spend your whole life with them in the end. Otherwise, it's just a fling. And at the end of the day, that's the basis of it there. So, if there are negative aspects about yourself, don't blurt them out to someone, but equally don't try and cover them up, because they're going to come out eventually. And if you see things in other people that you don't like, then friction can occur from that. Now, change. This is a big one, because a lot of people think they can change people. You can't. And I'm saying that now. You can't change people, and don't go in thinking that you can. There's a different point there. There are aspects about people that can change, but they have to instigate the change. You can't instigate the change in someone else. They have to do it. And this is a point that annoys the hell out of me every time I hear it, is that people find a good looking person, and I know I keep using looks, but that's where it usually comes from, and they say, I don't like this about them, I'll change them. No. If you're going into a relationship saying, I'm going to change them into something else, you are not trying to date that person. You are trying to date a fictional person who doesn't exist yet. Because if you meet someone, and as they are, if you go in and say, or thinking, I'll change them, I'll change this thing about them, you're automatically not dating that person. You are trying to turn them into something else so that you can date them. You are effectively in love with a fictional character who doesn't exist yet. And you can't get annoyed because they haven't changed into what you wanted them to. And I've heard this happen so many times to both genders that it's ridiculous at this point. If you are going to get into a relationship with someone and try and make it work, you have to take them as they are. There will be things that change, because that's what happens in relationships. Things change, you adapt to a joint life together, but you can't change someone into something they're not. If if they want to change, then by all means they'll change, and you can support them with that. But you can't make someone change to someone else. You can't take a good-looking arsehole and make them into a good-looking, decent person. That doesn't happen. And for women out there, and I know you're out there, people who look at bad boys and go, I'll change them, I'll fix them. No. You will not change them. They will use you, they will abuse you, and they will chuck you out when you try and change them. That's reality, people. And it's the same with any arsehole. Don't go in thinking you can change them. Just don't. And I've said that so many times now, it's losing all meaning. Okay, we're on to the next point, which is one that's cropped up a few times I've seen happen. Spending time together and spending time apart. Now this is very important. I mean very important. I can't stress this enough. Because the main issue that occurs here is I've seen some relationships basically go, I should be the centre of their life now, so they should be spending all of their free time with me. That's wrong. And that sounds strange, but it's wrong. You can't expect your partner to spend all of their time with you. Granted, they'll be spending more time with you, but they need their own life as well. It's the same with you. If you are in a relationship where your partner is expecting you to spend all of your spare time, and sometimes even like your other time, with you, if they are expecting that, they will suffocate you, and you will eventually want to leave them, and it has led to people cheating. And I don't condone cheating in any way, and I don't say that people drive people to it, but one of the reasons it does happen is when people are in a relationship they don't like, or they feel suffocated in. I'm not saying, again, if someone cheats, it's that person who's cheated who is at fault. But there can be reasons that that happens. Now, as far as spend time together and time apart goes, yes, you do need to spend time together. You're in a relationship, you're in a joint life, you're supposed to spend time together. But you also have to spend time yourselves as well, with your own friends, with your own interests. And it's very healthy to do that. So like, if you don't have to spend every waking hour of every day together, that's unhealthy. You will eventually grow to resent the other person, and it's human nature to do that. It's been scientifically proven. I've seen it happen. It's even happened to me before, where I spend so much time with someone, even if they are my closest friend, I will get annoyed at them if I spend too much time with them. So balance is key there, but equally, don't feel like that because you don't have all of your time to yourself anymore that it's wrong. You are expected to spend some time with your partner as well, but also have your own time. It's about finding that balance. Spend time together, go out and do stuff together, but then also sometimes go out with your own friends, hang out and do things. It helps reduce the friction that builds up because you get time away from each other, and then you can come back and be like almost happy to. You know, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder. Well, it's kind of like that. When you're away from your spouse, even for just like a few hours, the resentment that starts to build up goes away, and you start to feel like more love for them because you start to think about more what you like about them. Unless it's a bad relationship, in which case you start thinking about what you don't like about them, but that's an indicator of a bad relationship. The thing is that spend time together, yes, like a few hours a day, or however you feel is appropriate, but spend time with your own friends, with your own interests as well. Do your own thing, do joint things, find the balance, because if you do too much of one, you will end up sabotaging your own relationship. If you try and spend too much time with your friends and expect your partner to be okay with that, it won't work. Same goes for reverse. If you're expecting your partner to spend all of your time together, it'll go wrong. There will be more arguments, there will be more problems, and eventually the friction will just tear you apart. So if you feel you're in a relationship at the moment where the balance is wrong, or feels a bit too one-sided or too suffocating, you need to talk about it and communicate about it. If you can't resolve it, then you need to consider moving on. Now, this next one came up from something I saw today, and it's about the signs of a doomed relationship. Now, this is a rather interesting one, and I need to actually pull up the actual points that I found on this. Got to look into my email now. I should have done this before. I'm very unprofessional in this, but then I'm an unprofessional person, so what do you expect? Okay, so 7 signs your relationship is destined for failure. Point 1, you have opposing values. Now this one can go either way. You are individuals, you will have opposing values, but when those opposing values are something you are very strong about, or the other person is very strong about, they can tear a relationship apart. For example, if one of you is a feminist, like a very zealot feminist, and one is more traditional, then it's not going to work. You're just too different. There's no way you're going to see eye to eye, and you'll just end up with arguments all the time. So, if your views are too, you're going to have opposing views definitely on things. But if they're too venomously opposed to each other and both sides are stubborn, you're just going to argue. It's never going to work. And that follows into the next point: arguing a lot. Arguments are normal. Arguments every day is not normal. That's not healthy. And arguments are an indicator of conflict. And obviously there'll be conflicts of interest, conflicts of views. But if you're arguing over everything, it will get aggressive, it will get defensive, and you'll just break down because you won't be communicating. You'll just be yelling at each other. So arguments are healthy. Arguments every day, not healthy. That said, I do know some relationships have existed on arguments. I don't think it's healthy. If you think it is, that's your business. But if you're arguing constantly and not resolving anything, then something's wrong. You're not communicating. And this feeds into the next one. Communication. If you're not communicating with each other, you're not expressing your views. Now, this actually has two facets to it. If you are not communicating with your spouse, your partner, you can't be annoyed at them for not understanding you, because you're not the one communicating. And women especially, you must understand this, guys will not pick up on your subtle hints. So if you are making sighs or gestures, guys aren't going to pick it up unless you tell them. And for you to get annoyed at them for not picking up on your subtle gestures is dumb. That said, guys, for the love of God, don't just sit there. If you have a view, say it. And the same for women as well. Express yourself. Say what you think. Share your view. Share your feelings. Talk about it. Talk to each other. The more you communicate, the less arguments there are. Because you're working out the issues, the frictions, the foibles, the issues, before they become problems. It's like having a safety valve on a pressure gauge. I'm saying a pressure gauge, but whatever the hell. Every time that thing is running, it's like communication. It's keeping things in check. It's keeping things balanced and not letting the pressure build. When communication breaks down, pressure builds up and things start going wrong. Arguments start developing. I've seen arguments start over nothing. I actually nearly had an argument and nearly lost a friendship because I misunderstood a point. And that was literally it. I misunderstood something that was said to me. When I spoke to them and got clarification about what they actually meant, there wasn't actually a problem. I could have lost a close friend because I misunderstood something. And that would have happened if there wasn't communication. Thankfully, we communicate, we talked, we worked out what was going on, and I was in the wrong. I admitted that, and we went on from there. That is the sign of a good, strong relationship, because you can communicate, you listen to each other, and knowing when to back down is important. You don't have to be right, you don't have to be wrong, but knowing when to back down is very important, because you can end up starting arguments literally over nothing, something that didn't even exist, and relationships have broken up over that. It's ridiculous. Point 4. You dislike each other's family. This is getting into something a bit more involved there, which is you don't have to like each other's family to be in a relationship, but it can make things difficult if you don't like the in-laws, or the in-laws don't like you. Try not... It's good to try and ingratiate yourself with an in-law. It's difficult. If it doesn't work though, it's not the end of things. But don't use it as a point of argument. Don't use it as a point of contention, because you will just make things worse. There's not much more to that. Your past is still an issue. That's point 5. Now this one is an interesting one. Some people have... people have exes. It happens. I've got exes. Not many, but I do have them. And the thing is that some people, they get hung up on that. And that goes both ways. If your partner has exes, and they say they are past them, accept that. Unless you have anything concrete to say otherwise, accept what they've said. Because if you keep bringing it up, they will get annoyed at you, eventually. And then they will start citing you for not trusting them. And it might be your own paranoia playing you up there, but communicate with them, talk to them, work it out. But don't keep bringing it up. Accept what they've said and trust in them, unless you have a reason not to. Don't make up reasons to distrust people. And the same goes for individuals as well. If you have a past where you have had relationships or situations with the other gender that have left you scarred, don't project that onto your current partner. I've seen women who have ended up where the guy has cheated on them. They've gone to other relationships and they've effectively sabotaged it because they believe that all men will cheat on them, or all men will eventually leave them in the end. And by doing that, you're self-sabotaging yourself, because you're going to force that situation. That's the thing. An individual guy is an arsehole. Guys in general aren't. So don't project your paranoia onto someone else when they haven't done anything wrong. If they've done something wrong, then they should be treated as an individual for what they've done. If you've been in a relationship where a woman has cheated on you, don't project that onto someone else. It's difficult, I know, but communicate with your partner, talk about it, tell them why you feel that way. If they're a decent person, they'll reassure you. They'll reassure you that there's nothing wrong. I've had to do that several times with some people, and I'm quite happy to keep doing it for the rest of my life because it gives them the assurance that there is nothing wrong. So just understand that there. And the web page crashed. Point 6. I've already brought up this one. Your relationship is more based on physical compatibility than emotional. This is key. Physical compatibility is important in a relationship, but it's not the basis of a relationship. It's a factor. Obviously, you have to be attracted to someone and want to, have sexual interactions with them to be in that kind of relationship. That's a part of a relationship. It's part of being a lover, but it's not the only factor. If you're just interested in someone because of their physical attraction, then all you're after is a cheap thrill. That's it. Don't go looking for a serious, committed relationship based on physicality alone. You have to have an emotional bond with them. If you can't have that, forget it. It's not going to work. Nitto, nothing, zip. And people will argue with me about that, and I know some people will, but forget it. There is no relationship that I'm aware of that has ever existed purely on physical merits alone. There have to be emotional ones as well. And finally, it's a one-sided relationship. Now this one comes back to spending time together. If you feel like you are the only one giving in this relationship, it's very possible that you are. That said, you need to communicate with your partner, and communication has been said throughout this. If your partner is very blasé, is just almost like disinterested, unless it suits them, it's likely a one-sided relationship. If you are the one who is not so much ignoring your partner, but is focusing more on your own life and your own friends than actually showing them that you love them, then perhaps you're the problem in the one-sided relationship. Show your partner that you love them. Do something spontaneous. Or even just tell them, talk to them, make them feel like they're a part of your life. Relationships are all about give and take. It's not about keep taking, and it's not about keep giving either. If you're someone who is giving all of your love to someone and you're getting very little back, then you need to seriously consider what's going on there, because that is an easy way to be used and abused. I've seen it happen to many women I know. Is they go in, they give all their love to someone, they basically give them everything. They do everything they can for them, and the guy just gives very little back, shows very little interest. They'll say a few nice words every now and then, but nice words are easily fabricated. Again, any advice on any of these, drop me a message. I'll give you all the advice I can. Okay, so that's the part about doomed relationships. The next bit, how long have I been going for? Oh, nearly half an hour. It's going on longer than I've hoped. The next bit is balance. Now this falls into many of the other points that I've brought up. Balance is about finding the balance in a relationship. Balancing your own time for yourself and balancing time with your partner. It's finding the balance between things. People have said to me a number of times that love conquers all. It doesn't. Love does not make a relationship work. There are other factors involved. There is the economic factors. There is whether you can actually. There's the chemistry. There's the physicality. There's basically the bond. Just because you both love each other doesn't mean it's going to work. Sometimes it does, and I'm happy for you if it does. But don't go in saying, well, I love them, so it will just work out. It won't. You have to make things work. There are other factors involved. You need to be able to support yourself economically. Throat's drying up. I've been talking too long. You need to be able to balance yourself economically. You need to have a roof over your head effectively. You need to be able to manage your work, your, at least said work-life balance. Relationships aren't work. You need to balance your life together and your life alone. You need to have your own time to relax and do your own thing away from your partner. Not in the sense of I need to get away from them, but more the sense of I have my own life and I have my joint life. They do come together, but it's kind of hard to explain. The best way to explain it is you have your own life and you have a joint life, and you commit to both of them. You balance them constantly. Okay, I had to go and have a quick drink there because my throat is drying up. But yes, when it comes to a joint life together, you have your own life and you do your own things there. And you have your joint life with your partner where you do things together. The two will intersect, but they shouldn't impede on each other. I mean, yes, you will be giving up your own free time, or the free time that you had when you were single, to spend time with your partner. That's normal. You're expected to do that. But equally, you've got to have your own time as well. And that's where some people foul up, is that they can't get the balance right, so arguments happen a lot. That's life, I suppose. And the final point I have in this long-running saga that has gone on for over half an hour is communication. Communication is absolutely vital in any relationship. I can't stress that enough. I've said it throughout this. If you can't communicate with your partner, it's not going to work. Arguments will happen because of lack of communication. Friction will develop because of lack of communication. Animosity, mistrust, paranoia, problems all stem from lack of communication. Communicate with your partner. Talk to them. Express your views. Hear their views. Take it in. You may not necessarily understand everything that is said to you, but hear them out. Take in what they're saying. Show them you acknowledge them. You'll, believe me, if you communicate more with your partner, you will actually find your relationship will improve dramatically. If you haven't, well then, I can't say much to you. If you're not communicating with each other, then perhaps that's the problem. Now, the main thing at this point, because I've reached the end of my notes now, is if you have a view or if you need my advice on something, let me know on Twitter or here, and I will get back in touch with you as soon as I'm able to. I'm happy to help anyone I can in any way I can, but bear in mind I'm one guy. I have the views that I have. If you decide that my views are valid, take them on board and use them. If you decide they're invalid, by all means ignore them. I'm not always right, but I have spoken to a lot of people, and I have helped out a lot of people with working out where things are going wrong in their relationship. And sometimes it ends in breakups. Breakups happen because the relationship was wrong. It's not because someone has done something that has caused it to go wrong. No. If there's a breakup, something is wrong in the relationship. That's generally where it comes from. It can come from single events, but fundamentally, you won't know until you won't know until your deathbed that the relationship was right, because they say in marriage till death do you part. That's the only way you know it was right, is that it's still going. But don't force it. Recognise when something is wrong. Take a step back. You may need to talk to outside people, such as myself. You may need to talk to third parties to indicate to you where the problem is. Sometimes when you're in that deep, you don't know where the problem is. Don't just assume you're the problem, but equally, don't just assume your partner's the problem. You have to look at everything as it is. If you can't do that, speak to someone else. Speak to someone you can trust. And that's all I've got. I hope this helps provide you with some useful advice that you can take into whatever relationship you're in or going into one. If you need any advice for getting into a relationship, dealing with relationship issues, XYZ, then get in touch. I will give you whatever advice I can. I may be able to help, I might not be able to help, but at the end of the day, a third party can really help. And I will be 100% honest with you, regardless of who you are, where I think the problem lies, if there is one. Sometimes there isn't, and sometimes it's just in your head. But anyway, I just want to say thank you for sticking around for these 35 minutes if you're still here. If you're not here, then screw you. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to this. I'm sorry it went on for too long. I will be getting back to the dick jokes, and there will be a Minecraft series coming. But there is another one of these I intend to do, and it is on anxiety, which I'm very familiar with. So, thank you guys for listening. Take care out there. And if you have a relationship right now, do me a favour and go and tell them you love them. Bye bye.